You walk into the grocery store for one thing: milk. That's it. You know exactly where it is. This should take 2 minutes. Then somehow, you're standing in front of pasta sauce comparing labels like this suddenly became an important life decision. At first, you're comparing prices, then ingredients. Then suddenly you're holding 2 jars while forgetting the thing you originally came for. You pass fresh bread. Something smells incredible. Somehow chips end up in the cart, and you don't even remember grabbing them. Then 20 minutes later, you finally reach the milk. And somewhere in the middle of all that, the quick trip completely disappeared. Which is strange, because grocery shopping wasn't always built to feel this way. For most of history, stores barely let customers wander at all. You walked up to a counter, asked for what you needed. The clerk handed it to you. Sugar, coffee, bread, done. No wandering aisles, no standing frozen in front of 30 cereal boxes while your brain slowly gives up. Then in 1916, a grocery store called Piggly Wiggly changed everything. It let customers walk the store themselves. And at first, that felt like freedom. But stores noticed something almost immediately. The longer shoppers wandered, the more they bought. And once that happened, shopping stopped being just about selling products. Because once shoppers started moving through stores on their own, they kept running into things they never planned to buy. And this is where the whole thing gets weird. Once shoppers started moving through stores on their own, stores started shaping what people kept running into instead. And little by little, shopping stopped being just about buying things. It became more about whatever distracted you along the way. But they also changed the experience of shopping itself. For the first time, people had to move through huge spaces filled with choices the entire trip. You head toward milk. Then suddenly you're halfway down another aisle making decisions you never expected to make. And after enough little interruptions like that, your focus starts slipping. That's why grocery shopping can start feeling strangely scattered. And once stores realized they could shape what people kept running into, the layout itself started changing too. Because if grocery stores were truly designed around convenience, they'd probably look completely different. Milk, eggs, bread. The stuff people buy constantly would all be sitting near the entrance together. Quick in, quick out. Done. But instead, the things you actually came for are usually buried deep inside the building. So before you ever reach them, you wander through half the store first. And the longer the trip lasts, the more likely it becomes that your attention starts drifting. You forget what aisle you already checked. You circle back for things you passed earlier. At some point, you stop carefully comparing options and just grab the version that feels good enough. Because after enough decisions, your brain slowly stops wanting to make more. And that's usually the moment shopping changes. People stop moving intentionally. They start moving automatically, throwing familiar things into the cart, grabbing whatever feels easy, trying to finish the trip before they completely lose track of it. And once that starts happening, the trip somehow stops feeling simple. And that explains one of the most annoying grocery store experiences ever. When they move everything, you finally memorize the layout. You know exactly where the coffee is. Then one day you walk in, and suddenly it's gone. Now you're wandering again, looping through aisles you normally ignore, and almost everybody has the same reaction. Why would they move this? Because the moment shopping becomes automatic, people stop exploring, they move faster, grab what they need, leave. And stores figured out a long time ago that fast trips usually mean smaller purchases. So every once in a while, the environment resets. Not always because of some giant strategy. Sometimes stores really are reorganizing things for practical reasons, but either way, the effect is the same. Your routine breaks, and suddenly you're paying attention again. And there's another grocery store feeling almost everybody recognizes. At the beginning, the cart is empty. You notice every single thing you put into it. A bag of chips feels unnecessary. Extra snacks suddenly feel expensive. But somewhere in the middle of shopping, that feeling starts fading. Once the cart already has a few things in it, adding one more item suddenly doesn't feel like a big deal anymore. And after a while, you stop thinking about every item separately. You keep moving, keep grabbing things, keep thinking. Might as well get this now too. And before long, the cart somehow fills up faster than you expected. And eventually, stores figured out something else too. It turns out people shop very differently once emotions get involved, especially when they're hungry. You walk in planning to buy ingredients for dinner, then suddenly rotisserie chicken smells like the greatest thing ever created. Desserts you normally ignore suddenly seem completely reasonable. Somehow snacks end up in the cart, and you don't even remember deciding to buy them. And grocery stores learned a long time ago that hungry shoppers behave differently. That's part of why bakeries are often near the entrance. Warm bread smells spread through the store fast. They hit people early, before shopping lists fully take over. And once stores realized people kept buying more the longer they wandered, suddenly bigger stores made a lot more sense. Over time, stores just kept getting bigger. More aisles, more products, more choices. At first, that probably sounded amazing, everything in one place, but after a while, shopping started feeling mentally crowded. You stand in the cereal aisle longer than you expected. At first, you're choosing cereal, then suddenly your brain is comparing sugar, protein, price, serving size, and eventually you don't even care anymore. Eventually, your brain just wants to move on. And that's usually the moment the trip stops feeling organized. People stop moving aisle by aisle. They double back for things they forgot. Lose track of what's already in the cart. Realize halfway through the store they missed something on the other side entirely. And somehow the quick stop keeps getting longer. Meanwhile, somehow 40 minutes disappeared inside a building where you only needed 3 things. And the strange part is, most people barely notice time slipping while it's happening. Inside the store, everything feels temporary. One more aisle, one more stop, something else catches your attention. Then suddenly the trip is over. And it somehow feels more draining than it should. Not because grocery shopping is physically difficult, because your attention has been shifting the entire time. And all of that eventually leads to the checkout line. Think about what's always waiting there. Candy, gum, soda, tiny impulse purchases. Because checkout creates the perfect moment. Your brain is already tired. You've spent the last 30 minutes making decisions, trying to remember what you forgot, mentally retracing the store. And now suddenly, one little extra thing feels harmless, like a reward for surviving the trip. That's why checkout lanes are packed with small stuff, because once the trip goes on long enough, people stop thinking quite as carefully. And grocery stores became incredibly good at recognizing those moments over time. And after enough years, that kind of shopping just started feeling normal. And honestly, grocery stores were probably one of the first places people got used to living this way. And once you notice that feeling in grocery stores, you start recognizing it everywhere else. Streaming platforms asking if you want to keep watching before the credits even finish rolling. Apps constantly pulling you into one more video, one more notification, one more scroll. Online shopping somehow turning "I need socks" into 40 minutes of browsing. Modern life is full of things constantly trying to pull people into one more click, one more video, one more thing. Not by forcing anyone, just by constantly interrupting focus before the brain has time to fully reset. And maybe that's why modern life can feel mentally crowded in ways people didn't experience quite as often before. Not because anyone suddenly became weaker at focusing, because more and more parts of everyday life slowly started competing for attention. Eventually, constantly shifting attention just starts feeling normal. And maybe that's why grocery shopping can feel strangely draining now in ways it probably didn't generations ago. Not just because stores got bigger, but because somewhere along the way, shopping stopped feeling like a simple errand and started feeling more like something people slowly get pulled through. Which means the next time you walk into a grocery store for just one thing, you'll probably notice it. The aisle you somehow ended up in by accident. The thing you forgot to buy until checkout. The extra item you grabbed because it was easier than thinking about it longer. The way a 5-minute stop somehow turns into wandering around for almost an hour. And maybe somewhere in the middle of all that, you'll realize something interesting. The store was never just holding products. It was quietly shaping the experience around them. And after a while, people stopped noticing it was happening at all. If you've ever walked into a grocery store for one thing and somehow left with an entire cart, let me know what always gets you. And if you want more stories about the hidden systems and everyday habits people stopped questioning a long time ago, subscribe.